Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Dacoa, and this is my Classroom Technology Resource Review project for our Education and Computers course. So I chose my article from Edutopia like the rest of you, and it was called Bringing What Worked During Virtual Learning Classroom. And it was basically about, like the title suggests, bringing what worked during the virtual learning classroom into the physical classroom. So in this article, the author, John McCarthy, explores the aspects of virtual learning that can be successfully integrated into the physical classroom. So a lot of us are making the transition from virtual learning to in-person instruction, even in the college setting, and the same can be said for high schoolers and middle schoolers. And even though more schools are making this transition from virtual learning to in-person instruction, the valuable aspects of the virtual world that can really help enhance the learning experience for students. And here's the link to the blog or the article, and if I clicked on it, it takes me exactly there. So why did I select this article? I selected this article because I think it resonates really well with the state of our current educational world. A lot of us are making the transition from virtual learning to in-person learning, and there's just so much that educators and students alike have to get accustomed to all over again. And this article was really useful because it bridged the gap between the in-person and the traditional learning experience, which I thought was helpful. Also, key points. I'm gonna talk about some of the key points mentioned in the article. One of the main key points was that teachers can maintain a virtual classroom space even in the physical classroom, where where assignments and tasks are easily accessible for students. So virtual classroom spaces that can be implemented in the physical classroom include sites like Canvas, Google Classroom, and Schoology. These sites make it easier for teachers to consolidate information and share it easily with their students. Resource links that might be useful in a virtual classroom space that students can share with their students within the physical classroom include glossaries, video, audio, and text-based explanations of material, and a virtual space that includes access to assignments and supporting materials. All of these contribute to what we call the development of an instructional video library. An instructional video library can help both instructors and students alike. Using an instructional video library, teachers will no longer have to repeat content that they already taught, and students can have access to lessons at any time. They can access information at home during snow days, and even when they're feeling unwell and cannot make it to school. So key points continued. Virtual classroom centers, even in the physical classroom or when students are feeling unwell and are away, can also make it a lot easier for instructors to leverage collaboration among students. Teachers can embed links to resources and tools which students can access whether they're in the physical classroom or at home. Virtual classroom centers are also useful because they work well for both individual and collaborative projects. As we have learned throughout the semester, and as stressed in this article, teamwork is a very important aspect of the educational experience. And through tools like breakout rooms, students can learn communication and collaboration skills from one another. So it's really cool because students will have the opportunity to interact with one another face to face. But then other times they can interact with your classmates or classmates in other courses or classmates in other classrooms through breakout rooms. And the physical classroom experience doesn't have to lack technology. Virtual learning tools can really aid in making the classroom experience more dynamic and immersive for both the student and the teacher. So next, I'm going to talk about the learning theory that falls into the most alignment with the article that I selected. And this learning theory was social constructivism. So I'll just go through each point. From the perspective of the teacher or the instructor, the implementation of the technological schools that I mentioned in the previous slides reflects and falls most in alignment with the social constructivism learning theory. And in one of the reading articles by Ertma and Newby, it is noted that constructivism is a theory that equates learning with creating meaning from experience. So both the learner and environmental factors are critical to the constructivist, as it is the specific interaction between these two variables that creates knowledge. And the social aspects points to the fact that students need one another in order to thrive, and it's beneficial to them when they're able to learn from one another. So the social constructivism learning theory basically posits, as we've learned throughout the semester, that we construct knowledge with others and store that knowledge in our minds. It emphasizes that we as learners literally learn and gain knowledge through being social. So therefore, the implementation of virtual learning classroom tools such as instructional video libraries, breakout rooms, resource links, virtual classroom sites such as Canvas, Google Classroom, and Schoology all fall in direct alignment with social constructivism because they encourage learning through collaboration and social interaction. Next, I'm going to focus on historically marginalized learners and how that relates to the aforementioned topics. So the historically marginalized learner group I selected are students from socioeconomically disadvantaged homes or communities. Research shows that academic performance in school is directly related to socioeconomic status, and that a lack of access to educational resources means that students from low-income communities tend to perform lower than students from high-income communities. And students who live in poverty are at the most risk for failing academically. Many poor children live in tight living conditions, which make it difficult to often study or complete schoolwork in a private space. Students from low-income communities who move from different housing units to other housing units are often forced to move schools frequently as well. And in the process of this constant moving, they lose existing social support networks with their peers and teachers, and they even miss lessons on academic skills needed for success. So obviously this brings with it a set of challenges that socioeconomically disadvantaged students may face, even as we talk about, integrating technology in the classroom. This can be a real challenge for students from low-income communities because access to early education opportunities, such as, having a computer or other technological devices in the home, are often limited when it comes to students from low socioeconomic backgrounds. And this means that it is more difficult for low-income students to collaborate virtually as opposed to in person. Students from low socioeconomic backgrounds may have a much harder time navigating the previously mentioned tools such as the instructional video library, the breakout rooms, and class sites such as Canvas and/or Google Classroom. And parents in low socioeconomic status households often spend most of their time working, and this limits the quality time that they can spend with their children. And obviously, this can delay the development of linguistic skills as well as technological skills, which we know is very important, especially in the 21st century world that we're living in. And this also means that these students may have less supervision online when it comes to completing schoolwork. So strategies that we can take to ensure success as educators. So in order to ensure that students from socioeconomically disadvantaged homes are also benefiting from the use of virtual technology in the classroom, educators have to be culturally competent. Us as educators, we need to be dependable and trustworthy sources of academic and emotional support. And teachers can build on student strengths. So obviously, we talk about challenges in the aforementioned slide, but we can now, look at ways in which we can combat these challenges. And one of the ways we can do that is by building on student strengths. So although some students from low SES, socioeconomic status backgrounds, may initially struggle with certain types of advanced technology, they have many strengths that they bring to the classroom. And it is up to educators to recognize these strengths and to build upon it. Teachers can also identify and provide missing resources and experiences that are important for successful learning. So for example, if a student needs a laptop because their family can't afford it, then teachers can reach out to the district head or the principal, and help the student get access to the laptop so that they can be successful in the classroom. And so now I'm going to talk about benefits of virtual technology, especially as it relates to students from disadvantaged backgrounds or from low socioeconomic status. So students from low socioeconomic backgrounds can also benefit from virtual classroom spaces and media. Despite the challenges that may arise, these students also need to be stimulated academically because when students' academic progress will suffer if they don't have frequent opportunities to engage in complex and enjoyable academic tasks, like exposure to technology and solving real-world problems. Hence why the technological integration I've discussed throughout this PowerPoint is so important. So now I'm going to challenge you as my viewer to really engage with the content that we've learned through 3 prompts. So these are my tasks for you, and they all, tackle different areas. So one is creating, evaluating, and analyzing. So when it comes to creating, I challenge you to identify 4 or 5 ways that educators can incorporate technology, such as instructional video libraries and virtual breakout rooms in the classroom in a way that is beneficial for students of color or students who are in the LGBTQIA community. How can educators ensure that the technology they are incorporating in the classroom benefits everyone and not only a small set of students? Next, evaluating. So I challenge you to evaluate the ways in which a virtual classroom site like Canvas or Google Classroom, complete with the course material, can benefit another historically marginalized community, such as students who may have special needs. And then finally, when it comes to analyzing, besides what I have mentioned in previous slides, what other challenges can virtual classroom tools such as instructional video libraries, breakout rooms, resource links, and virtual classroom sites pose for students from socioeconomically disadvantaged homes or communities? And in what ways can this be combated? And I really challenge you to think about these tasks that I've posited. And I think they're really good to stimulate our minds and, kind of force us to come up with solutions and just a way that we can help our future students. So in conclusion, as we've learned together through this presentation, there are many ways to include technology in the classroom environment. But as educators, we must be mindful of how the technology we implement in the classroom will benefit students from different communities. As we make the transition from virtual learning to in-person learning, there's certainly aspects of the virtual learning experience that we can keep, such as virtual classroom spaces, glossaries, video, audio, text-based explanations of material, and instructional video libraries. And although all of these tools are most certainly helpful in the classroom, we as educators must make sure that they're accessible to everyone. And ultimately, it is also important to remember that technology is a wonderful tool for all students when used properly within the classroom. And this is my works cited page. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned a lot from this video and have a wonderful rest of the semester.